IOM is an organization that has existed since 1951. We were actually set up as a temporary agency to help with supporting the resettlement of people that had been displaced by the Second World War. So basically you had a situation where you had a lot of displaced persons inside Europe that could not go back home, and a number of countries offered to resettle them. So that includes the US, a number of countries in Latin America, there was Australia, New Zealand, places that were safe for people to be resettled. And so we did the logistics of this resettlement. We basically put them on planes, on ships, and we moved them to those resettlement countries. And then from a temporary agency, we became a permanent agency, and we've been involved in most of the crises that people know about, from the Vietnam War to the Hungary crisis in 1957, to the first Gulf War, the second Gulf War, etc., etc. So what we do as IOM is really to promote the safe, orderly, and dignified migration of people who need to move or want to move. What we try to do is really to facilitate orderly migration, and that's in a context that can be a development context, but also a crisis context. We talk about migration management in IOM. So, how do you promote migration management so that it benefits the migrants, of course, but also the host community, the host country, the places where these migrants are going to be moving. So there are a lot of programming areas that we are involved in. So it can be skills matching, it can be supporting remittances, it can be leveraging diaspora support to people who want to move. It can be about social cohesion, social integration when these migrants actually arrive in the country of destination. It can be also providing mitigation measures so that they're not trafficked, because there's a real danger, and we see that in the Mediterranean, that people on the move are also vulnerable to people who want to abuse them, exploit them. And so that could be smugglers, but that can also be traffickers. And then there's also the whole a process of supporting them with documentation upon arrival, supporting them with advance notice on what will be expected of them when they reach their country of destination. And then preparing also the governments that eventually want to receive migrants with policies, with evidence that will inform those policies, so that the process is as welcoming and safe as possible when migrants arrive at their destination. So, I mean, we really cover the full spectrum of what we call migration management, from departure to transition, or to transit countries to the reception country. There's one particular SDG that is, has come from IOM specifically, and that's the SDG 10.7, which is promoting safe, orderly, and regular migration. So 10.7 is probably the main SDG that we try to support, and that we are engaged with governments on. So on the policy side, on the legal side, and on the operationalization of these laws once they are passed. Combating human trafficking, exploitation, or any form of exploitation, it could be labor exploitation, is also one of the SDGs that IOM is working on. There's also an SDG which is about labor migration and employment. I think I referred to the fact that we work mostly in development contexts. For example, I remember in the past we had a program between Albania and Italy. So there was a job matching scheme, and so this is 8.5, 8.7, 8.8 SDGs, and that's really about promoting decent work. It's really about improving labor migration governance. So it's also having the systems and the laws and the policies in place in a particular country to be able to receive in a dignified manner people who want to work in that country. There's several challenges. There's not just one. I think I referred to the fact that there's so many crises in this world and so many needs. If you look at the year after year, the number of displaced persons, the number of the call for resources that are being asked in different fora to support people being displaced. The number of crises and the fact that they're so protracted is one of the big challenges that IOM faces. And I think maybe the second biggest challenge is the narrative around migration. There's been a lot of negativity when we talk about migrants and migration in general. So how do you shape that narrative? How do you change it so that people understand that migrants are not there, for example, to take your jobs? Migrants bring skills, they bring value to an economy, to a society. Migrants pay their taxes. Migrants contribute to building countries. Look at the US, which was built on migration. So I think that narrative needs to be, the narrative and the toxic narrative around migration needs to be changed, and it's kind of part of our job to provide the evidence that migration is not all negative. And so that is a big challenge. If you look at every election that's been happening in the past decade, migration is always on these election platforms. It's always talked about, but it's not talked about in a nice way. And there has to be a shift. There has to be a better understanding by society at large, by governments, that this is not a threat. Migration is not a threat. It's not going to go away. So make sure that you understand it better, and that you leverage it for the benefit of the country where these migrants are staying, but also for the migrants themselves. What's happening, for example, in the Sahel, which they say is like the perfect storm. You have climate change. You have poor governance. So basically, countries that are very poorly governed, and some of them on the brink of war, if not at war. You have poverty. And so, what is the angle that you take to make things better? Because all of them require investment. Some of them you can try to address with that investment because it's kind of a man-made problem. But then you have climate change, which no matter what the investment, you're not going to change things very quickly. So it's what IOM calls the perfect storm. And so what happens to the population living in these types of environments? What are the options for them? Do they just leave the country? Or do you continue to invest in that country so that it becomes somewhat developed in terms of governance, in terms of economic opportunities, so that people want to stay? But can they stay when the climate becomes extreme, right? I mean, you have areas in certain countries where there's no more water. The water table levels are so low, where especially herders, for example, if they can't stay in that particular area because there's no more water and there's no crops that can grow, then they move to other places, which then is basically owned by others who don't want them coming there. So then you have sort of intercommunal conflict. And yet we're trying to invest into social cohesion, but it's never sufficient, because at the end of the day, are they going to care about social cohesion? No, they're thinking about their herds. They're thinking about the income that they have from their herds, and they're thinking about an area where they can continue to have their herds graze, and make money out of that. So it's like, where do you start? And it's that complexity which is so multifaceted, that it's not just one SDG and an investment in one SDG that's going to solve it. It's multiple SDGs in one country, or maybe not even just one country. It could be one region within a country that needs to be addressed. But there's not enough money for any of this, and there's not probably yet enough evidence to address these things. You have Ukraine, which has drawn so much attention, okay, and we're trying to solve that, so to speak, but that means we're leaving behind other countries where we've invested for years, if not decades. So does that mean those other countries or regions are no longer important? What is it going to mean to those countries if we stop investing. And that's what we're seeing as well. Donors are shifting their resources to Ukraine and are saying, well, for now, for 1 year, we're going to stop. We're not going to be able to support this region that we've been supporting for decades. So what do? That is the problem. That is kind of the wickedness of choices, so to speak.